Welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving business owners save time in their schedule every week by implementing marketing automation to grow and scale their business to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Allie Turner. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. So, for people that have not had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell me a little bit about what you do in your business, how you help coaches and consultants, what it is that you do?
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I run two businesses currently, but I've actually started three. So my first business was a digital agency. We did digital advertising, social media marketing for mostly brick and mortar businesses. I eventually transitioned that business into software as a service because one of the biggest things I saw in our agency business was that most of our clients wanted more control over their business systems, their marketing, their sales. And our platform was an opportunity for them to take back that control and really have insight into really how their business was growing, which at the end of the day is pretty important if you're running a business. So transitioning into SaaS was a really brilliant move. I still own and operate the SaaS company, Sattva.io, which is a holistic business development platform for entrepreneurs and companies of all shapes and sizes. We mostly work with service providers, so people who are maybe a knowledge-driven business, maybe selling digital products in some cases, coaches, course creators, consultants, as well as still many brick and mortar businesses who are working with people as opposed to working with physical products, warehousing, shipping, all of that. So that's our focus at Sattva. And then since then, I've started my online coaching business as well. I'm a business mentor for female entrepreneurs primarily. And really we focus on building a more holistic lifestyle around your business so that you're not constantly battling between life and business, right? It doesn't feel like business is something that takes up your time and energy or detracts from your life in any way, but instead is a very fulfilling aspect of your life and really allows you to pursue your purpose, your calling in life, and do what you set out to do when you came into the world.
That's incredible. And I can see how they would go hand in hand, both the coaching side for, the mindset, the time management, everything you need in day to day, and then the tools to help free you up.
Exactly.
So I'm a techie, so I'm going to dig into the tool first. But can you tell me a little bit about what does the platform do? How does it help support people?
Yeah, great question. So Sattva is a really robust platform. And, I like to say it's very powerful and yet it's very simple because we offer so many different tools and resources and applications inside of the one portal. So rather than going out and finding one-off services, like a platform that does this, a platform that does that, one by one, and trying to stack them together into a sort of tech stack. We've all heard the term your tech stack in your business, right? Rather than having to stack them up, which not only increases complexity, right? You have to actually integrate each platform to each other to make your business run as a whole. We've put them all into one home, right? So instead of multiple services, multiple monthly subscriptions as well, tech stack means you're stacking up subscriptions and money you're paying out each month. We've put them into one portal where you get everything you need in one place. Everything already talks to each other, so it's very easy to set up systems in your business that are intuitive and automated and actually built around what you want your business to look like, rather than just working with the limited functionalities of each particular platform and how it can work with the next one. So in terms of what we actually offer on the platform, we've got pretty much everything that you could need. We've got funnel builders, we've got website builder, we've got, course platforms, membership portals for your clients to log in and access your tools and resources, training videos, courses, things like that. Email marketing, social media scheduling, text and voice as well. So you can actually make calls and receive calls and send text messages through the platform. Managing contacts, making sure that your contacts are organized, seeing all of your leads in the pipeline. We have a really robust opportunity feature where you can actually track the client journey from start to finish. Revenue. So we completely map with Stripe and PayPal so that you can manage all of your payment links, all your payment pages, invoicing, subscriptions. And then finally, we have some really robust reporting features as well, so that if you are growing and scaling, you want to run ads, you want to build a call center or have a sales team, down the line, you can really scale up your business with a full-fledged team and have insight into what they're really doing, what they're producing for your company.
That's incredible. And I would think that would give a lot of cost savings across the platforms when you, like you mentioned, when you're stacking up different technologies, there's a cost for every single one of them. If you've got it
Exactly.
all baked into one, and I know you mentioned text and voice. I know a lot of platforms don't offer that as far as they're all in one package.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of the people that we work with, especially these days, we've been focusing on online business owners. So again, like coaches, consultants, course creators, agency owners, freelancers, social media managers, people who are building a business online because COVID kind of made that a necessity in many ways, and who are building a business around their passion, because that's been really fun to help people see that their passion is not just a passion or a hobby or a side hustle. You can actually turn it into a very successful, thriving, impactful, and profitable company with the right tools and systems in place when you start treating it like a business rather than a hobby. And you mentioned the costs. That's what scares most people away from turning their quote unquote hobby or passion into a business. It's like, well, with a business comes expenses, not just more income, but also more expenses. Most of the people we work with when they're transitioning onto Saatva, they're paying anywhere from $800 to $1,500 a month in different software subscriptions. I mean, when you start to stack up 300 there, 50 there, another 100 here, it's like it really starts to add up. And we put everything in one place for about $100 a month. So it really is huge cost savings.
That's incredible. Yeah. And we'll have the link below for anyone. Definitely check it out. I mean, there's a ton of functionality you mentioned that would save a lot of time and a lot of money for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I know that you're an automation expert. You focus on marketing automation and actually building systems in your business. So I'm sure we'll hit it off on that subject now and in the time to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely my sweet spot. And I love automation with a personal connection. And the listeners have heard me talk about that before, but it's so easy for automation to go off the rails and people just tune out. And it's so important to have that personalized connection. So you free up your time, but it's what people want in the moment and focuses on relevance, in that second of what that customer wants. So for me, that's where the power really comes in.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. And the cool thing is, with the right systems, as long as they are malleable and customizable, the goal is always build systems in a way that fits what you want your business to look and feel like. There's so many people that say, you have to do it this way. Everybody's selling a course or a coaching program on like, this is the ultimate system that will help you scale to 7 figures. And I don't really believe that there's like a one size fits all approach. I think the key is to look at what you want your experience to be in your business. Like, how do you want to get up and work every day? What are the things that you want to do? What are the things that you want to delegate? What are the things that you want to automate? Like, what is your workflow? And then how can we create that using concrete systems in our platform?
Yeah. Yeah. The other benefit that I love about automation is it forces us to create a repeatable process that's streamlined so that you can then automate it, right? But you have to have a process that works well before you want to ramp it up and speed it up. So I like to use it. I use it a lot in a lot of different ways, but it helps me really focus my time on that one-on-one connection with people. So I can put things that don't require that one-on-one connection. That's the stuff that I like to automate. And then it lets me free up my time so that I can connect with people like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that should be the goal. The simpler, in my mind, the better. Even though our platform offers so many different tools and features, it's ultimately like, what do you want to use? Like, how involved do you want to be? Do you want to just kind of pick and choose from this buffet of options and make something that works for you? Do you want to use everything? And again, people think systems are going to make things more complex, but the whole goal is to make things simpler and give you time back to focus on your zone of genius, what you really love doing the most.
Totally. So how then, you mentioned you have your coaching business as well. How does that complement all of this and what do you offer in that? I know you mentioned a few things already, but.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I got started with coaching because I saw that there was a gap in the people that I was working with and the audience I was targeting with my first business with Saatva. I saw that there was a gap between people who were starting a business based on some feeling of like, this is what I should do because somebody told them to. Somebody said, this is how much money you can make doing this. This is how much freedom you can create doing this, versus people who were building a business that maybe seemed a little bit illogical, a little bit out there, a little bit different, but was really based on who they are. And what I wanted to help people do was transition from that kind of need focused of like, this is what I need to do to provide for my family or to make X amount of dollars or to buy that home. Not saying that those things are bad, but focusing only on the outcome rather than the actual experience, right? The experience of building the business. What do you want to be doing every day? What do you want to be experiencing in your business? And again, like this came from my own personal story. When I started my first business, I mean, the agency business, it was done for you services. We were running the ads. We were running the marketing campaigns. We were building the back end systems, converting the leads, setting the appointments. And not to say that that was bad, but it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing, right? It wasn't what I set out to do originally. The business scaled beyond what I initially imagined I would be doing. And, you know, even though we were successful and things were moving fast and I was learning so much, there came a point where I realized, okay, I have to A, not burn out, and
Right.
B, find something that I really love doing and figure out a way to make this business what I desire it to be. So that's what led me to the transition into software as a service and then into coaching, because from my own experience, you know, waking up every day and feeling like, oh my God, there's a bazillion things to do. And to keep this whole operation going, I have to do these things. I was going down this path of like, not just not enjoying it, but also exhausting myself as a result of doing it, which is when I decided to transition into SaaS. And that was the best decision I possibly could have made in the business. I'm very glad that I did. And now as a coach, that's exactly what I help other people do, because so many people are building businesses, especially since COVID, when, you know, every 5 seconds there's an ad on your screen for like, this is the next best business model. And, you know, everybody has this whole shiny object syndrome and sees so much potential down so many roads. It's like, okay, but pick the road that really fulfills you, right? Pick the road that's going to be sustainable in the long term, not just in terms of the economy or the finances or the marketplace, but in terms of what you're going to feel intrinsically motivated to show up and do. So that's what I focus on primarily. I would say that's the foundational aspect of my coaching business. Obviously, beyond that, we go into so much in terms of brand and personal power, building out content creation systems that work for you, creating content that really speaks your soul's message, what you showed up to be here and talk about, creating offers, offer structure, offer outcomes, transformational offers, and then also the sales strategy, right? How do you actually turn all of that into a business model that gets you paid so that it is also financially sustainable, not just a super expensive hobby, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the word that came to mind as you were starting to talk about that, was sustainability. And you know, we hear so much about scalability, right? And that you want to be able to scale your business, but it's got to be internally sustainable, that we can't just burn ourselves out every single day and then you end up dreading coming to work in your own business. It's like, why do I have this? It's supposed to be freedom for me, and this does not feel like freedom. So I agree. Like, you have to think about that entire model when you're setting things up and as you go through your business. I mean, you mentioned you had a shift in your entire strategy, made a huge pivot from done for you services, which is trading money for time and resources and having to scale up, right, with having that much more support to be able to support your clients, to SaaS and coaching and a totally different model. So that, to me, that's like day and night, which you made a huge shift there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was, in many ways, it was like day and night. And in some ways it was just a smooth kind of unfurlment in a way. It felt like, you know, we were doing the done for you services, and then we had this platform already in use on the back end. We'd already built out systems for our clients, but we were operating them. So in some ways it was just like, let's just hand the key over, you know, like let's just give them the keys to the kingdom and give everybody access so they have their own account, they have access to their automations, they have access to their systems, they track their leads, they set their appointments. And what we found is that that's actually kind of what they wanted. At first I was afraid that, okay, they came to us for a done for you solution, kind of like business in a box, like this is going to get the job done for you. But by the end of the process, and when we were starting to make this shift, people were saying like, what we really want is control of our own destiny. We really want insight into our growth. We really want to know where we're headed and how we're going to get there. And that's where it really solidified the decision for me of like, okay, this is the right thing to do, because this is literally what they're asking for. And since then, I mean, in my coaching business, one of the biggest things I focus on is empowering people to make those transitions for themselves, right? To step into not just the role of the leader of your business, right? The voice, the face, the brand, but also ultimately, to be realistic, the CEO of your business, right? Like, how do we look at your business as a business, not just a hobby or a side hustle? Like, how do we look at it from the perspective of like, I am building a company, even if it does feel like, okay, I'm a coach, right? Like, I've been coaching for years in an informal capacity. How do I turn this into a business? Like, it may feel really far away, but with the right systems and the right mindset, it's actually a very simple turnkey solution. It's just stepping into the role of CEO and accepting that you want to build this for the long term, for that whole sustainability long term.
For sure. So in your multiple roles, right, in your multiple businesses, how would you define success? How did you reach that final definition for yourself, or is it still in progress?
That's a great question. I like that question. I personally, one of my favorite definitions of success that didn't come from me, but that I've always really identified with, is that success is it's not just one thing. Like, we talk about success in society as if it's one thing, and usually it means financial success, like some level of wealth, some level of impact that has created financial stability and ultimately abundance as well. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would see that as definitely one definition of success. However, I prefer the definition that success is really your ability and the outcome of having achieved what you set out to do. So whatever it is that you want, whatever desire it is that you have, whatever vision it is that you've created for your life and for your future, if you achieve that vision, you are successful. So for a completely opposite example, a monk in the Himalayas, right? If their goal is to become enlightened and they are just in a cave meditating for hours and hours on end and they become enlightened, that's success, right? They have no money. They have no need for money, but they are successful in achieving what they set out to do. And I think that's really powerful because it makes us really look inward, which is where I think there's it's just a missing piece, right? If we're not looking inward at what we really desire, we can never truly be successful, because we may set out to achieve some other person's or society in general's definition of a success, and that's not our own, right? And that's where a lot of people end up at the end of their lives looking back like, I wish I had lived a life that was truer to my own desires and what I really wanted. And that's, for me, that's like my biggest fear in life, is getting to the end of my life, looking back and being like, whoops, like having regrets, having this feeling of like, that's not what I set out to do, or like, I didn't do everything I could have done or wanted to do. And I think that's huge. I think that's a really important step to take, even if it's not your final definition of success, to take a moment and think, what do I really want to achieve in my life?
Yeah. And I think it's being clear in what your targets are, and your target can change, right? Like, I know for my kids, we're always telling them they're in the high school and beyond age. So pick a path, right? Like, figure out where you want to head. It doesn't matter if that changes or not. It's just pick a path and head that direction, right? And then you figure out the details as you go. And I think it's similar in business, where you have to pick a path, pick a target, pick something you're heading towards. The details are going to change. The path may change, right? Like, you made a huge pivot, but you need to have a direction, have something you're heading towards, so that you know when you actually feel like you achieve it. Otherwise, you're always just chasing money or chasing a ghost or chasing something that you never really know what you're chasing.
Exactly. I love that. And it made me think of a funny story that may intrigue your listeners that I'll share here. When I started my first business, when I started in the summer after I graduated from college, I never had a job, by the way. Like, I never went into corporate or had a 9-to-5 or anything. I've never worked for anyone else aside from like barista jobs in college and stuff, And summer after I graduated, I started this business because ultimately my goal was to buy a nice car. I really wanted a Porsche convertible. I really wanted to build a house of some sort. I knew I wanted to build my own house, not just buy a house. And I really just wanted financial freedom. And so I fell prey to those ads that are like, do this, do that, the whole shiny object thing that's been going on the last few years. And not to say that I regret it, but my initial desire was some tangible outcome, right? Like that standard definition of success. And what the experience taught me was that there's no price worth paying for some specific material outcome, right? Like just the desire for a Porsche convertible is not going to keep you going through the times when you have to be up at 5 a.m. and stay up till 10, 11 at night, burning the candle at both ends, trying to get everything done, hiring, outsourcing, managing clients, managing large amounts of money, investing in ads, which are always a gamble. It's ultimately the scientific method, right? It's just experimental. And so that whole process really showed me that there's no price worth paying. And the experience along the way has to be an autotelic experience where the experience itself is its own reward rather than, a means to an end that's somewhere outside of yourself, somewhere in the future, in your mind's eye, but not in reality in the moment. And I did end up getting the Porsche convertible, but only after I transitioned into SaaS and had been running the SaaS company for several months, about 6 or 8 months at that point. And I had it for the summer and I sold it because I realized this is not like what I actually set out to do. I don't need it. I switched back to having an electric vehicle because ultimately my values lie in sustainability and protecting the environment and all of that. So it was a really big lesson for me because not only did I go down this path of trying to get what I wanted initially, got what I wanted after making the shift that was really more aligned with what I wanted, and then realized that at the end of the day, who cares? Like the material outcome is not as fulfilling as the experience in my business and also my core values, like what I really want out of life. So that at the end of my life, when I look back and I saw that I chose to drive an electric vehicle rather than that, exciting, fun sports car, right?
Right.
I'll be proud of myself. Like I won't regret it. Not to say that I'll never get another one. I may, because, they're fun and why not?
Right.
But I feel like it was a huge lesson. It kind of like came full circle to realize, okay, this is like way more important to me to actually experience what I want to experience in my business and to live according to my values, like what really matters to me in this life.
I absolutely love that. And I love fast, sexy cars, so I can identify with the Porsche, but
Yeah.
it's true that the Porsche isn't what's going to get you up in the morning. And it's not, you drive it for such a short period of time, right? And you spend your whole life working towards it, that the trade-off is not there, right? So you need something more internal that's driving you, that you're trying to accomplish, that you're helping people, that you're making the world better, the bigger picture, the bigger vision that you're trying to accomplish versus the materialistic thing that you want to get. And granted, money's nice, being financially stable and free and independent and all that is fabulous, but it's not. I love that the tangible things are not really what you're after, and you actually got it and realized this isn't what it cracked up to be.
Yes, exactly. Just that realization. And I'm glad I had it very early on in my entrepreneurial journey. In many ways, I'm just getting started. I've experienced a lot in a short period of time, thankfully, but, to have that experience early to realize it's not, the outcome, the end outcome, the materialistic goal is never going to be as fulfilling as the work itself is huge realization to have gone through.
So cool. So then what would you say is the most satisfying about your business? If it's not the Porsche, what do you think it is?
Great question. Yeah, I think honestly, just the work itself. The most satisfying activity that I engage in is actually coaching and teaching. I had an experience recently where I was giving this live program for newer coaches, consultants, service providers who really want to step into a new level in their online business this year. It was a really wonderful start to the year. It was a very powerful program and the feedback was incredible. But just being in front of the camera with knowledge to share is like my zone of genius. It's my favorite place to be. It's my favorite thing to be doing. I teach about, the marketing, the sales, the content, the brand development, leadership, all of that. But at the end of the day, for me, just the process of teaching. It doesn't really matter what I'm teaching about, but whatever I'm coaching on, whatever I'm talking about, speaking about, that is the most fulfilling process, the most fulfilling activity. But in terms of satisfying on the whole, I would say just the fact that at this point now, my business is so well integrated with my life. It's not a separate entity. Like one of the things I teach about a lot is the concept of work-life balance. I don't really believe in that. I feel like work-life balance implies that there's some like hard line between, okay, this is work and this is life, right? And they're separate, black and white. And I personally feel like life is the umbrella, and there's a lot that falls within that umbrella, like work, for instance, but also relationships, right? Like your relationship to a partner, your relationships in your family with your friends. There's your spirituality, your personal development, whatever you see that as, whether it's a religion, whether it's just something you do internally, a meditation practice. There's your health and your fitness. Like there's so many things that fit under the umbrella of life, and work is one of them. So ultimately, for me, the goal has always been work-life integration rather than work-life balance, feeling like my work is fluidly and comfortably in harmony with my life rather than something apart from it that I constantly have to like move back from, right? Move into and out of on a daily basis. And so that's been the most satisfying thing, especially in the last, I would say 3 to 6 months since the end of last year, really building out a sense of integration, really experiencing that integration and just finding practical ways to create it, right? Through my routine, through the way that I approach my work, even just in terms of the structure of my space. I live with my partner, but I have an office that's over here on the completely opposite side of the house that's quiet, that gives me space to breathe and to be. But really, like right here is my desk. I have a yoga mat, I've got a chair to sit in and read. Like it's a fluid creative space as opposed to just like, this is my office, I'm just gonna sit at my desk all day and work all day and that's all I do, right? So creating that fluidity, creating that flow has been so satisfying and so really comforting as well.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, I've been working remotely for the past, probably at least 8 years, just entirely remotely. And I'm often on the road with my husband. We travel a lot with the family. So, having that fluid nature, I think is really important. And along with that is healthy boundaries. Like you mentioned, you do have your space, which is nice. You're not stuck at the kitchen table. Like you have a zone that you can, kind of call your own and be free and creative and do your thing in. But also I think balance is important, at least personally for myself. Like it's so easy when my office is in my home, and I'm guilty of it this morning. I stumble in and start working before I even take time for me and, work out in the morning and do my thing. And like, that's my personal struggle is, I need to make a priority for myself. It's so easy to let my time go away and to just start investing to other people before I actually like feel centered in the morning. So how do you find, your balance there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I can completely relate because there's so many conflicting opinions about how to structure your day, how to build a routine, like when to do which tasks. And I think there's no one size fits all. Just like with systems in your business, systems in your life, it's the same thing. There's not one approach that works for everybody, in my opinion. We all have different, physiologies. We all have different circadian rhythms. We all have different, astrological types. There's different things that come into play. And I think that for me, it's again about looking inward and also experimenting, right? Like it's not a one and done process. It's not going to be finished the first time you try it. So experimenting by like trying a certain routine and seeing if it works, for a week or two. If you want to modify it and tweak it slightly, go for that. I used to live by like a super rigid routine. I would like create a Google sheet and put in all the times and block out my calendar. And I found that it was actually too rigid. Then for a while, I sort of rebounded in a sense and dove into like complete fluidity with nothing set in stone. And then that was too fluid. That was too abstract. There was nothing to really pin it down. So what I've settled on now is a balance between certain things that are rigid, like what time I wake up, what time I go to bed, what time I meditate, what time I eat in general. But other than that, I give myself the fluidity to do what feels good in the moment. And I think that's been one of the most helpful approaches when it comes to how I integrate my work with my life is what feels good in the moment, what feels good right now, what do I feel like doing? And that's made my business not only more productive and efficient, but also just more fun. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like, oh, I have to do this and then I have to do this and I have to work through my to-do list like boom, boom, boom. It's more like, what do I want to experience right now? Do I want to be creating content or do I want to be like developing a new offer? Do I want to be selling on social media or do I want to be on a client call? So I've set up certain, I guess you could call them systems or structures, but they're very fluid in terms of just the approach, the way I think about my work, the questions I ask myself in order to start my work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I personally, I do something similar, but I find it more inspirational, we'll say, that when I get that spike of inspiration to write the content or to create the videos or something, I'm not forcing myself to do it when my brain is somewhere else, right? It's easier to be in the moment and be inspired and to actually do it better when you give yourself that freedom and that flexibility to kind of feel out where your brain is in the moment.
Yeah, yeah, and then to really be present with it as a result. You're not thinking about something else you'd rather be doing or that you should be doing. It's more just in the moment, present, and tuned in.
Absolutely. So for the coaches that are just starting out, what would you recommend and what is your advice for them?
Number one thing, and this is exactly what I talked about in that program I mentioned earlier, I would say the foundational piece is to build a brand. I think a lot of coaches hesitate on that, partially because I think there's a sense that there can be like an overnight millionaire, right? Like that you're going to very quickly just sell out your programs and reach six figures, scale to seven. And I think that is a vision sold by a lot of people who would teach you like one specific way that may not be aligned with what you want to do. And also that therefore doesn't work for everyone, even though they claim that it does. So I think that a lot of people get focused on the money that can be made in this industry rather than the impact that can be had. Not saying that you have to be completely altruistic or ignore money altogether. Obviously, we're in business. Money should be a part of that.
We don't do it for our health, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there needs to be a balance. And so I think that approaching it from the place of like, okay, long-term sustainability, I need to build a brand. I need to be visible online, right? Who am I? Who am I becoming? How do I want to show up every day? What do I want people to see me as? Now, doing that in an authentic way means really looking inward, tuning into the way that you're growing. Because if you're coaching, you've transformed in some way and you want to share that transformation with other people. And so if you want to continue to grow and be able to share more and more over time and really scale your business, you've got to keep growing and transforming. You have to keep evolving. And you will either way, but if you're not in tune with it, you're missing out on so much gold that's happening, right? Not just for your offers and things that you can teach your clients, but even just for content on a daily basis, breakthroughs you're having, changes you've made, systems you've implemented. And so for me, I would say focus on your inner evolution and then turn that into a brand, right? Like, how are you growing? What are you focusing on? What are you all about? And how can I share that with other people? And that should be the foundations of your brand. And a brand is what will give you longevity in the long term. Once you've kind of solidified that, even though it's a process, it's an ongoing process, but you have the foundations laid, then moving into consistent content, right? Consistent content creation, being visible, growing, nurturing, and converting your audience through your content is key. And then from there, looking at, okay, how do I create offers that people will love, that I will love delivering, and that will create transformation in other people's lives, and selling those offers actively. So for me, it's kind of like a pyramid. There's brand, then there's content, then there's offers, then there's sales. And the whole thing needs to be permeated with true authentic leadership, which is a whole other discussion for a whole other time. But leadership has to permeate the whole thing. If you can't lead yourself, if you can't lead other people, it's going to be really hard to build a coaching business. And so that has to be foundational in the process.
For sure. So with all your areas of expertise, and if you could be remembered for one thing and one big thing, what would that be? What do you want to be remembered for?
That is a really profound question. I would say, in terms of legacy, what I want to be remembered for, raising consciousness actually would be my primary focus, helping people evolve. So whether that's in business or not, because in the long term, like right now, I'm focusing on coaching women in business. In the long term, I envision myself coaching women and people of all walks of life in growing, transforming their lives through the development of consciousness, and ultimately seeking enlightenment. And I know that sounds kind of woo-woo and ooga booga, but I'm a very spiritual person. Before I got started with business at all, I became a meditation teacher. Spent 6 months in Thailand and became a certified teacher, which was a really powerful experience and completely changed my life. And I would say at the end of my life, I want to look back and see that I gave that gift to other people. The gift of truly experiencing inner being, inner, pure, silent, ever-present consciousness, and then allowing that experience to become a new norm, allowing that experience of equanimity to underlie everything that we think, feel, do, and become in life. So I would say that's ultimately the long-term vision. And I'm starting in the realm of entrepreneurship and introducing these concepts in entrepreneurship simply because it's an area where it's really necessary, right? Like business is stressful. Things that happen around us, situations and circumstances can toss us about like we're in the ocean, on all these moving, undulating waves in a storm at times. But if we have that anchor, then we're in equanimity all the time. We're in peace at all times, knowing that that's fundamentally who we are. We're not the person struggling with the problem, the challenge, the client who's upset, or the refund request, or what to say in our content, right? Like all these levels of problems don't have to overshadow us, don't have to consume us. And that inner sense of knowing who we really are, what we really are at our core, is what allows us to be bigger than all of that, more expansive than all of that, and ultimately unaffected by all of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I know in my career, I actually started out as a registered nurse in high risk labor and delivery, and it was very intense on a daily basis. But there's so much, as I shifted from the nursing world over to tech and IT and marketing and consulting, and, I absolutely love what I do. And I enjoyed my beginning of my careers. There's so much that I've taken with me every single day that I use every single day in the world that I'm in right now. And I think a biggest piece of it is that, and this may sound strange, but at the end of the day, nobody died. Like perspective of there are bigger things out there, bigger stressors, bigger issues, that what you're working with is really not the end of the world, right? So you can work through it, you can process it. Like, people may be upset, but there's no need to just lose your mind over it, and you can work through it and just bring that peace and keep the stress, to a manageable level.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm sure that was a very powerful transition to make. Definitely a lot of lessons brought into the mix, because I love that at the end of the day, nobody died. I think that's huge. And obviously, like in the moment, it can feel stressful, but if you remember the bigger picture, if you're able to really anchor into yourself, who you really are at the core, then you're unaffected. There's a part of you that is like, like the earth, like a tower that's just not affected by anything moving around it. It's just completely stable, completely grounded. And it's a powerful experience to have, and it definitely transforms the way that I personally have approached problems or challenges in my business and in my life. And I really can't imagine, what I would do without it. I think that I would be much less resilient to outside influences.
For sure. Yeah, no, inner peace is priceless in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what can people expect from you next? Sounds like you've got lots of things in the works.
Yeah, absolutely. Big year ahead. It's the beginning of February. Every year at the end of the year, I look at the year ahead and think, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to create? This year is definitely a big year for me. I have a lot of amazing offers lined up for my coaching clients. We have a lot of expansion going on at Sattva. Some really cool new programs to expand the business and find more people who want to build systems in their business, who want help with that, and who want a community around building automation, building systems that support growth in the long term, that are both, as you said, sustainable and scalable, because it's not scalable if it's not sustainable, right? Like one is prerequisite to the other. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about everything that's to come. Coming up next, I have this incredible money mindset program coming up in February. I'm so excited about that. I've got a mastermind about to start, which is super exciting. It's sort of an extension of the Emerge program, which is the one I was talking about in terms of foundations, but really taking those foundations to a new level, doing it together, supporting each other, and being in a community of women who are actually doing the things, right? Like it's so easy to just learn and learn and learn and learn, and to keep investing in masterclasses and courses and coaching programs, but it's learn and do, right? There's two pieces to the puzzle, and coaching is only effective if the client actually implements. And that's where a community and a supportive environment to actually implement together is so, so powerful to actually see the fruits of our actions and see the results start to come in. It's just so easy to watch videos, watch YouTube, watch trainings on how to do all of this stuff. But if you don't actually do it, it's not going to happen. It doesn't actually come to fruition. So that's where, yeah, that's where coaching programs and being together in a community, having accountability, having support is huge. And I'm super excited about this mastermind, what it's going to do for our clients.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Yeah, it's so easy when you're just in that learn path to get analysis paralysis. It's like you can't just pick a path and just go and see results and start figuring the rest out as you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
I would say go inward, like look inside yourself. Take time every day to just be with yourself and figure out what you really want, what you truly desire in this lifetime, and hold on to that desire. Write it down, put pictures on a vision board, save photos on your computer, journal about it every day. Be really, really clear about what you desire and what you envision for yourself. And then always check yourself against that vision. Is what I'm doing, is what I'm putting my attention on right now, day to day, moving me towards this or further away from it or in a different direction? And use that as a method to shape your actions, shape your activity, shape your behaviors and your goals.
Yeah, and make that your North Star.
Exactly.
Awesome. Now, how can listeners support you in your work?
Oh, awesome. Well, definitely check me out on Instagram. I think that's a great place to be in my world, to learn from me. Get in touch with me. If you have questions after listening to this or watching this episode, definitely get in touch, ask questions, DM me. I'm always available and love to connect with people. That's actually been one of the most fulfilling and satisfying parts of my business. I know that was an earlier question, but just meeting people of all walks of life who have desires and know what they are, but have to figure out how to achieve them, right? That's been huge. It's so fulfilling, so satisfying. So yeah, feel free to get in touch. The place I'm most active, I would say, is Instagram. I recently started a podcast. It got a little bit delayed by COVID. I had COVID and my voice was horrible for the first year of January. So that kind of slowed things down, but podcast is on the way. And also join my Facebook community. I give free live trainings in my Facebook community at least twice a month, if not more often. I've started doing some Instagram lives as well. So if you want to come and learn about specific subjects, related to business, entrepreneurship, feminine leadership, feminine energetics as well, personal power and inner evolution, that's definitely the place to be.
Sweet. And we will have all of Allie's links below, so you can click on them and check her out and hop in the group and all the great stuff that she has. And you can check me out, find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And Allie, thank you so much for being here today. I really, really had a lot of fun chatting with you today.
Yeah, same to you. This was so much fun. I love your questions, and it was great getting to know you a little bit through this interview process as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, we will see you guys on the next episode.